The moment people saw the news, many experienced something unexpected. Recognition. Not because they had followed every interview. Not because they knew every detail. But because somewhere across years of watching stories unfold, there he was. A familiar face. A familiar expression. A familiar presence. And suddenly people asked themselves, how many times did I see him on screen? How many moments did I remember without realizing who created them? That question became the beginning of reflection. Park Dong-bin was not remembered because of one dramatic moment. He became remembered because of accumulation. Scene after scene. Role after role. Year after year. There is something powerful about actors who quietly stay in the background and still become unforgettable. Their work enters life slowly. One evening. One episode. One scene. Until eventually they become familiar. The entertainment world is filled with giant premieres and endless headlines. But careers are not built in headlines. They are built in mornings. Preparation. Waiting. Repeating scenes. Learning. Trying again. Showing up. Imagine the lights of a set. The camera standing still. The silence before action. An actor stepping into character. No audience visible. No applause. Only commitment. That is where the real story lives. For years Park Dong-bin built moments people carried home without noticing. That is rare. Because attention is easy to chase. Memory is harder to earn. Then came the news. Questions spread. People searched. People reopened old dramas. Old clips returned. Scenes that once felt ordinary suddenly felt important. Not because they changed, but because perspective changed. People realized they had shared years of stories with someone they never fully appreciated. That feeling happens often in entertainment. People remember after the pause. People understand after the silence. That is why moments like this create reflection. Not because people only care after headlines, but because stories remind people to look again. A performance can stay alive for years. Someone presses play. The scene returns. The expression returns. The memory returns. That is one of the strange, beautiful things about acting. The screen ends. The moment remains. That is why audiences went back. Not to search for endings, but to remember beginnings. To remember scenes. To remember moments that made them laugh, think, feel, and stay. There is something almost unbelievable about becoming part of strangers' lives through stories. Yet that is exactly what actors do. One performance enters one home. Then another. Then another. Until suddenly millions carry fragments of the same face. That becomes legacy. Not numbers. Not headlines. Memory. And perhaps that is why people continue talking. Because stories do not end where headlines end. They continue where memories begin. So if this story made you remember someone whose work you once overlooked, then do not wait. Celebrate the stories that moved you. Comment the role you remember. Share this with someone who loves Korean drama. Subscribe for more unforgettable stories behind actors whose scenes still live in people's hearts. Because sometimes the final chapter is not the end. Sometimes it is the moment the world finally looks back.